Even after a miserable 2-10 season, you got to find some positives. I've 6 of them that'll show you there was some good in this past year.
You are Locked On Boston College, your daily podcast on the Boston College Eagles. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. This is Locked On Boston College, your team every day. I'm your host, AJ Black of Eagle Insider, part of the 247 Network. I've been covering Boston College for over a decade. If you're looking for Boston College news, analysis, and details on your Eagles, you are in the right place. Locked On Boston College is a free daily Boston College podcast available on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. If you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. Today, we're going to look at some myths about the recruiting and the transfer portal. I'll answer some of your questions that have popped up. I'm going to give you a whole bunch of positives. I'll give you one from the defense. It was a tricky one, but I found one. One from special teams and 3 from the offense. So this is going to be an episode. Yes, 2-10. AJ, what are you talking about? How can you be positive about anything? Well, you know what, folks? I can find the positives. Yes, the negatives, the pile, the metaphorical pile is pretty high. You got a pretty high pile there. But remember, a lot of these games were pretty close. You had to have done something right to not make every one of these games a blowout, to be able to go toe-to-toe with Notre Dame, to go toe-to-toe with Georgia Tech, to almost beat Cal, Stanford. There were good things in there. We're going to pull all those out because after watching BC basketball last night, I need a palate cleanser. I need something to talk about that doesn't get me ramped up about what I saw last night. So let's get into that. Let's get into the positives. And yes, the majority of the positives this year have to come from the offensive side because that defense wasn't very good. And there's a reason Tim Lewis is out of a job right now because they were one of the worst in the country. So the offense, though, they have their moments. So we're going to start off with the biggest positive of the year, which was Lewis Bond. Lewis Bond, broke records for the school with the most receptions in a season. He was 4th in the country in receptions. He had 88 for 993 yards, only 1 touchdown. That's the craziest stat to me, is the fact that he had all those catches and only 1 touchdown. How does that happen? I don't get it, but whatever. Lewis Bond was a special player here. He's going to go off to the NFL, hopefully, where I think BC Nation is all behind him. Hopefully, this is a guy that represented Boston College well. He was, a fabulous representative of the school, the community. Like, this guy was everything you could ask for from a BC football player. And the fact that he's leaving, breaking Zay Flowers' records, breaking all these other records, is a testament to how hard he worked. Was he the flashiest player? No. Was he super reliable for the last 3 years? Absolutely. You have the game last year where he wins with that catch against Michigan State. That wasn't a great thrown ball by Thomas Castellanos. He made a great play there. How many times this year did he bail out, bad blocking or whatever for a great catch to keep a drive going? It happened over and over and over again. When you look back at this season, you're going to look at a whole lot of losses. But to look back and see that Lewis Bond did all these things, even when you were 2-10, is pretty incredible. You had one of the best wide receivers in the country in terms of the statistical output. I'm not going to say he's the most talented because I don't think that's the case, but what he did was pretty darn impressive, especially for a 2-10 team. So he was my number one positive takeaway from this past season. Number 2 was one that started off real slow, really, really, really slow, but got better as the year went on, and that's Turbo Richard. My positive for him isn't the whole season, because if you look at his numbers, you're going to go, AJ, the beginning of the season was a disaster. It absolutely was. He had the fumble against Michigan State. He had the fumble against Stanford. Arguably, both plays could have cost them both of those games. I get that. That was terrible. My point is, he rebounded from those games and still had a decent season. He ran for over 100 yards against Cal. And he basically was that offense. Remember, he had that touchdown that you thought was going to be the touchdown to win that game. That was an incredible play. He also had that incredible run that you thought was going to win the Georgia Tech game. Neither of those ended up happening because the defense couldn't, catch a cold. But you saw the pieces. And so my positive from Turbo was, A, that he didn't let those 2 fumbles at the beginning of the season, which could have just been bad luck, could have been form. I don't know. It didn't let him completely torpedo his year. Because you ended the year off with 2 games where he averaged, sorry, I had it right in front of me. He had 141 against Georgia Tech and 102 against Syracuse and 4 touchdowns in those games. So to me, the thing about Turbo going into next year, other than his resilience, is that if you get a good offensive line in front of you, an offensive line that wins more battles, he's going to be good. You've got a good running back there as long as your offensive line is going to play. Because the things that got him this year that really kind of limited what he could do were those games where the offensive line wasn't doing well. And some of that was on Turbo too. Turbo was definitely not seeing the holes as he should have. But once that offensive line pushed around Georgia Tech, pushed around Syracuse, pushed around Cal, you could see what he can do. So this is only his sophomore year. This is only year number 2 for Turbo Richard. I think he's just going to get better as long as the offensive line stays good. And, you're going to have a new offensive line coach. Most of your line, I don't know what the line's going to look like because we don't know what's going to happen with Logan Taylor and Jude Bowery. I think Bowery's gone, but you're going to have some new faces up there. We'll have to see what happens with that next year. And then our final positive is one that I thought I knew. I wasn't so confident as other writers, but they were right. And that's the emergence of Kaelan Chudzinski. Now, the big piece that I got stuck on during the spring was, yes, he was incredible as a tight end, making all these crazy good catches. But even Bill O'Brien said at one of his press conferences this past spring that he was undersized for a tight end. So I think Mitch would be able to talk more about this, but tight ends are obviously multifaceted in what they need to do. They're very valuable as blockers. They're very valuable as pass catchers. Chudzinski's role has to be more on the pass catching, and I'm not sure how he graded out as a blocker. I don't know what the deal is there. I'm not into watching that, but if his role on this roster next year is to be the passing catch tight end, and you have someone like Lockwood or Zeke Moore or one of the other freshmen that didn't play this year do the other stuff, then you're in good shape. Chudzinski is he's got enough that he can be a very good tight end for you, and he's only going to get better. He's a young guy. He's just learning the position. He played wide receiver, I believe, in high school at St. Sebastian's. This is a kid that, as he continues to grow, as he continues to get more developed, he's just going to be more dangerous. He was dangerous this year. He had 5 touchdowns. He was second on the team in receiving touchdowns on the year and had 23 catches, which led all freshmen. I think he led all freshman tight ends in receiving, which is a bit of a misleading stat, but still impressive. The fact that he went out there and did all that. So you got something there. Those are my 3 positives in the offense. I probably would have said something nice about Dylan Larnigan too, but he's gone, so who cares, right? So in a moment, we're going to get into the defense and one from the special teams. I dug deep. I dug and dug and dug to find something positive to say about the defense, but I found one. And I'll get into it in just a moment. Let's talk about something men don't bring up, but absolutely should. Stress from work, money, life. It doesn't just switch off at night. And when it shows up at the worst possible time, Rougiette Ready is designed to help you take back control, because Rougiette Ready is a next generation prescription treatment created to support both the brain and the body, so you can feel present, confident, and ready when the moment's ready. Rougiette Ready combines 3 clinical proven ingredients and 1 mint that dissolves under your tongue so it absorbs fast. And the science behind Rougiette Ready stands out. 3 clinically proven ingredients and 1 formula designed for both mental and physical awareness. It's easy to use, and you just have to call, and you have a doctor. You can board certified doctor online, and everything ships discreetly to your door. If you've been thinking about taking the next step, now's the time. Head to Rougiette.com/LockedOnCollege. That's RUGIET.com/LockedOnCollege to get 15% off your order for a limited time. Rougiette Ready, feel present, feel confident, feel ready. NFL Sundays move fast, one play, and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the actions unfolds, every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight reel. Live betting is best when the game starts to shift. A receiver gets hot, a defense tightens up, or the momentum flips in after a turnover. FanDuel lets you jump in at the moment. I'm watching Amika Okuba, Amika, I'm messing his name up, Amika Egbuka of the Tennessee Bucks. I mean, Tampa Bay Bucks. Man, I am on a roll right now. Bucks, and I got 40 yards of receiving yards and odds on live on FanDuel. Easy to find, easy to create. Paired that up with Bucky Irving rushing yards. Added on a 25% profit boost, and boom, I have my parlay for my Thursday night. If you know me, I love my Thursday night parlays. I got it rolling this weekend. I can't wait to see what happens there. Now, if you want to be in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. With FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. Thank you all for making Locked On Boston College your first listen of the day, and thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. If you're a true Boston College fan, the Everyday or All Access tier is built for you. You'll get one-on-one text access with me, AJ. You can talk to me. I know you guys want to. An exclusive newsletter and a 15% discount to the Locked On merch store. Head to LockedOnBostonCollege.supercast. Let me try it a third time. LockedOnBostonCollege.supercast.com. Again, that's LockedOnBostonCollege.supercast.com. Guys, it's Friday. Give me a break, please, and we'll be back in just a moment. All right. Thank you. Again, become part of our All Alex. I hope to see you all over there. Now, this defense. You might think that I'm being crazy by thinking of anything positive from this. And believe me, it was tough. You know, if I had a healthy Steer Torrance or a healthy Amari Jackson, man, I would have dug right in on that. I would have said, you got something special. And, you know, there were moments where I was like, oh, you could say this, but I can't. Like, KP Price, his flexibility and his ability to play linebacker, do everything for you. I couldn't put him as a positive because I just didn't see enough positive things out of anything here. But there was one player who definitely was not perfect, definitely had some issues at different times. But near the end of the season, when you got Amari Jackson back, you watched him play, you saw what you could see, what you could be getting out of him next year. That's Omar Thornton. Omar Thornton was a tackling machine. When you look at what the tackles were for the team, he was number 2 next to Price with 82 tackles. He had, as the season went along, he had 9 against Georgia Tech, 4 against Syracuse. But it wasn't just the tackles. I mean, you could just list a number. Anyone could tackle somebody. It was the viciousness, the violence of what Omar Thornton did. Every time he had a beat on somebody by the end of the season and ran at them, you were wondering if that person was going to be leaving the field, hurt. When Joe Filardi had him blitzing on him, I was like, oh, goodbye. And he luckily didn't get hurt because you wanted to keep Filardi out there. But Thornton, I think with a better defense around him, with more players, like I said, Amari Jackson, Steer Torrance, he's going to be better. He can't be the only guy out there making plays because when he was, I think, pushing it too much, you saw a lot of missed tackles. And there were times beginning of the season, big time. I think it was the Pitt game. He had a real tough game, or the Cal game. And he definitely missed. I think he was the one that missed the tackle against Stanford too. There were moments where he had to push, but when he is in when he just does what his, a free safety does, and it's just line up and kill somebody, Omar Thornton is very, very good. I think he was tremendous when he was doing that. And so as long as the defense around him improves, you got something there. There's something there with Omar Thornton. It's not perfect yet, but it's getting there. I'm not getting perfect. It's getting to really good. And I think that's what's something to be excited about. Defense, I spent 3 minutes talking about the defense being positive. That's all I got. I don't have anything else positive to talk about. There was a few moments here and there, like maybe like Chris Marable as well. I should also say like he had a few moments, but and Ela Boykin near the end. But I can't put them as a positive on the year. They're encouraging. They're definitely something that you can be encouraged going into next year. But are they positives? I can't get there yet. And then my special one, my last one, you could put this as 1A or 1B with Louis Bond for the best moments of the season. And this goes to Luca Lombardo. Luca Lombardo was perfect until that kick against Syracuse. And I was like, poor guy. He was on the verge of having a perfect season. In a year where everything was going wrong, he and Louis Bond, I think, were the only consistencies that you had on this team. You put Luca Lombardo out there every game, and he was hitting everything from distance. He was hitting 50-yarders. He was hitting 40-yarders. He was hitting everything that you needed him to hit. And that was so encouraging. Because how many years have we been watching such inconsistent field goal kicking, such inconsistent extra points? We went through a phase with Adazio. It may have been with Halfley. I think he fixed it. But there were years with Adazio where you got guys that couldn't kick extra points. So this was a revelation. And as I've said on the show before, going to camp and watching them, this completely caught me off guard. Okay? Now, as someone who gets to go to camp, you can see certain things. Like I saw Omar Thornton's viciousness. I saw, some issues with the depth on the offensive line. Some of the guys that struggled, I saw some of that. But one thing that did not correlate at all with the season was, I got to tell you, I said this before, the special teams, the kickers, struggled for most of camp. And Luca Lombardo was not good. Like, he was struggled. And to the point where we're watching the media going, this is going to be an issue again this year. And I don't know what clicked for him, but make sure that clicks again next year, because whatever it was not the same guy I watched at camp. This was very, very different. It was very cool to see, because he didn't get the Groza Award, or wasn't even a finalist for it. Sometimes that just happens when your team's terrible, and unfortunately, if the shoe fits, wear it, right? But he was able to, be a really, really good kicker. He should have been one of the top ACC kickers, and he was like honorable mention, which is a bummer too, because he should have been up there. But this was very cool. And you get him next year too, so you have a second year of this. Finally, that position looks great. And I should say, too, to give some credit, a positive is that Matt Turn had that unit pretty turned around. Now, punting wasn't great. I think Florio had his moments, but he also had struggled. It was nowhere near as bad as last year, but it still wasn't great. Andy Quinn averaged 55 yards a punt on 2 punts. 2 punts, but still, you could talk about that. The punt and kick coverage, though, was great. It was really good for most of the season. They had very few issues there. And Quinn was able to kick the ball out of the back of the end zone more than, I think he had like 60% of the time. So you did pretty well there. That's a bit of the positive too. So that's all my maroon and gold sunglass positivity of this show for a 2-10 team that probably disappointed everyone listening to this podcast. But I wanted to look at what you could build upon. What are the things that went well for Bill O'Brien this year that he can add to next year, and you can hope? Now, Louis Bond obviously isn't coming back because he's graduating, so that doesn't help. But a lot of these are positives that you can look at as well. Now, in our final segment, I'm going to play a little game called Truth or Myth, and I'm going to tell you about some things that you have brought up to me, either on social media, on my message board, or on subtext, about recruiting in the transfer portal and names BC has been linked to or could be linked to, and I'll tell you what I mean by that in just a moment. The holidays are officially here, which means gift hunting season is on. And if you want something meaningful, personal, and guaranteed to get a reaction, Aura Frames is the gift that delivers every time. It's not just something you wrap, it's a share memories, but Aura isn't your average picture frame. You can preload the frame with photos before gifting it. So when they plug it in, the memory is already there. No steps to figure out, no setup headaches, just instant smiles. Like my kids' grandparents got one in New Hampshire, one on the North Shore. That's not anywhere where we live. We're always doing activities and doing things. I can take my phone, take pictures, upload them to their screens. They love it. They tell me all the time about all the, like, they get excited when they get their new pictures. So for a limited time, save on the perfect gift visiting auraframes.com to get $35 off Aura's best-selling Carver matte frames, named #1 by Wirecutter, by using promo code COLLEGE at checkout. That's auraframes.com, promo code COLLEGE. This deal is exclusive to Listen Frame, sell out fast, so orders yours now to get it in time for the holidays. Support the show by mentioning us at checkout. Terms and conditions apply. Wrapping things up, Locked On Boston College, AJ Black here. Thank you all who have made Locked On Boston College your first listen every day. And to our everydayers out there, you guys are our MVPs. I appreciate each and every one of you who makes us part of your daily routine. Now, let's play a little game called Truth or Myth, because, folks ask me, so here's the thing. I'm a businessman, right? I don't do this for fun. I do it for fun, but I also do it because, it helps support my family, right? So people throw me questions on social media, and I get a lot of them. I've got like 15,000 followers on there, humble brag, right? And I can't answer all of them, and I don't want to answer all of them because sometimes I just don't have the time to do that. Well, you know what? I have a platform here that does support me, and I'm going to answer some of the things that you guys have brought up to me. And I'm not going to name who has asked me because I've had a million different questions, but these are things that you have asked me, and I want to get your thought. Give you thoughts on that. One question is, does BC have interest in Will Wood? Will Wood is a quarterback. I believe he's at Xaverian Brothers. He's a 2027 quarterback who played for one of the best teams in the state. And I have not heard BC having any interest in him. There's not been an offer yet. They have not offered him. So they've have other quarterbacks that look. Could that change? Sure. But right now, I don't see them pursuing him as a quarterback. Now, Will Wood be able to get a good college, career? Sure. I'm sure someone was going to look at him. He's got P5 offers. So I just don't see him right now connecting with BC. So that was the first question. Next one, the Sharon Moore. Holy moly, what was that story? Just got more and more bizarre and dark as it goes along. I'm not going to get into all that. But the big question is now, because he got fired, all players are either released from their signing, signing. They sign their deals, or they can enter the transfer portal. The big question everyone wants to know is, truth or myth? Marky Walbridge, could he be on the market to come back to Boston College, or would he go to Boston College? And again, I'm going to say myth, because I think if Marky gets if he goes I think my guess is that he'll probably stick with Michigan. That's just my educated guess right now. I'm not in his head, so I couldn't tell you yes or no. But that's just my guess. But if he doesn't, I would imagine he's going to go to a bigger school. Like Alabama was in on him. There's other bigger programs that are probably like, oh, we still need an offensive lineman. They're going to go reach in. I just don't see the BC thing. Maybe the new offensive line coach could convince him. I still think it's very rare that would happen. So that's another negative. Now, another one, transfer portal. Do I think that Deuce Knight could end up at Boston College? And I'm going to say true. I could see that happening. And here's how. Auburn just hired a new coach, Alex Golish, who had a great quarterback at UCF, last name Brown. Brown has not entered the portal yet. But a lot of people think, and a lot of Auburn people think, he's going to end up at Auburn. I would see him entering at Auburn and Deuce Knight entering after he sees the tea leaves and ends up at a different school. Now, what relationship is very clear from Deuce Knight's social media? Kenyatta Watson. Who needs a quarterback that could start? Boston College. Now, could they financially do it? That's a big question, but I could definitely see it possibly be a potential a potential fit for BC. So that was another one that popped up. And then I have another one. Truth or myth? Joe Griffin. Would he be coming back to Boston College? Now, Joseph Griffin was a 4-star wide receiver out of Springfield Central who ended up at Boston College, had like 4 catches, I think, or 2. Was pretty good, and then transferred to Wisconsin. He sat out that bowl game. I think it was the Pinstripe Bowl, No, it was the Fenway Bowl. He didn't play in the Fenway Bowl, and then he was gone. He very rarely played at Wisconsin, and then he was back in the portal again. Could he end up back at Boston College? I see this. I just don't. I think it's more likely that Josiah Griffin ends up in the portal because he hasn't done a whole lot. Maybe he wants to try to find a play than Joseph Griffin coming here. It doesn't seem like a reunification that makes a whole lot of sense. So that I'm going to say that one is a myth. And do I think in the final one, truth or myth, Boston College lands more than one player from Auburn? Obviously, that's a connection with Kenyatta Watson. I think that's true. I'm going to say truth there. I think they're going to get a couple players from Auburn that you're going to notice. And I think both of them will probably be players that will be regular contributors for BC. So there's my truth or myth. Do you agree with me? Disagree with me? Put them in the comment section. Love to hear from you. If you are an everydayer and you are part of our All Access and you use the subtext, use that as well. Text me. Say, AJ, I want to talk to you about this. And I'll answer. I'll answer to you. So follow me on Twitter at AJBlack247. Again, become an everydayer All Access. I hope to see you over there. Follow me on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, all the social medias. I'm available. I'll be putting out all sorts of content, and I'll see you all again soon for another episode of Locked On Boston College every day.